Welcome everyone to our Opéra Queens podcast. As you can see from my green screen, which I love my green screens. We're so thrilled to launch this new podcast. We're so thrilled to have you in our live Zoom audience and to welcome Rain. We're thrilled to have you here. We're thrilled to launch this new podcast, and our intention is to feature the IBPOC, BIPOC, queer opera queens that have performed with us and been with us this year in our Opera Queens productions. Obviously, with Opera Queens, if you didn't know, we perform opera in drag, queerified, and genderbent, and we invite you to check us out at operaqueens.ca and at Opera Queens if you haven't already. And as you see from my green screen, this will be the time of many where I am going to the wrong section because it's mirror image. There we go. And we have generous funding this year. So thrilled to receive a Digital Now grant from Canada Council for the Arts that is making all of this possible, including this podcast, which was, I like to think, a creative way to integrate the digital world into our form of classical music and in opera. And so just to explain how this will work, because some of you, this is all of our first time doing it. I've done similar initiatives, but my vision is that we'll introduce everything. We'll do a land acknowledgement. We'll talk to Rain for about an hour, and then at the end of our hour, we're going to turn off the recording and we're going to switch over to live Q&A / after party. And if you have any questions for Rain or I, and just to meet each other and to know each other, I think most of us do who are gathered here today, but possibly there aren't. And because it's recorded, I just want to let you know that if you feel comfortable to use an alias or have your video off, etc. during the interview portion where it's recorded, you're welcome to. And especially as queer people, we want everyone to feel comfortable and not outed if that is something that is important to their current situation. And however, the recording usually only is able to feature Rain and I, so usually the audience won't be recorded, but if it does, we will try to edit it out when we post this. And but just as a little bit of a disclaimer, because privacy is very important, especially for queer people, and anonymity at times. And our intention is to post the interview portion with Rain, the idea to create a little bit of a video library of our artists and to feature them, because the thing with marginalized artists is we don't always get the platform and the visibility that we need. So for example, with Rain, we really want to spotlight these amazing artists. So before I begin, I just want to acknowledge that I am coming to you from Toronto, Takaronto, and this is the traditional land of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people, as well as the Mississaugas. And I love the word Takaronto because it means where the trees stand in the water. And I'm so fortunate to live by the harbourfront in Toronto, where it's a very visible metaphor for this area, where there's beautiful trees, beautiful islands, beautiful waters. And as I was told by one of my Indigenous mentors, that a land acknowledgement should always come from the heart and not follow a script. So I've done my best to do that without hopefully forgetting any important information. And Rain is joining us today from Montreal, or Tiohtià:ke, Montréal, and it is the land of the Kanien'kehá:ka Nation, where I was for a couple of years, and now I've come to Ontario. And I'm just gonna put native-land.ca in the chat, which is a great resource for land acknowledgements wherever you may be. And also opera.ca, the Association for Opera in Canada, has some really great resources for land acknowledgements there. So that said, I want to, oh my goodness, technology. And as a fun added component with technology, there's always some weird, crazy, random things that happen, such as that weird thing. Was I the only one that heard that very crazy? Okay, well, ta-da! And Mercury's in retrograde for those who are following astrology. So the heavens are not in favor of technology, but what's life without a little spice, right? And so I'm going to introduce our beautiful guest who is waiting there and smiling lovely in a very lovely way while I read this bio and hopefully embarrass them. But all of us need some more love for ourselves, so why not? So our guest today is Rain Saran Senavinin, who is originally from Thailand. He graduated from McGill University in early music, a master's and muse in early music, where he was under the tutelage of Professor Dominique Lebal, Stephen Hargreaves, and Suzy Leblanc. He made his first appearance as a countertenor singing solo in Unsuk Chin's Cantatrice Sopranica under the baton of Guillaume Bourgogne with McGill Contemporary Music Ensemble in April 2019. He joined Opera McGill in his second year and performed in a Shakespeare serenade directed by Patrick Hansen, and became a member of Capella Antica led by Suzy Leblanc. And previously, like me, had been a baritone, and Rain performed as a soloist for numerous opera productions and concerts internationally in Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, and England. He was in the young soloist programs of Opera Siam and Grand Opera Thailand, where he performed the role of Don Cairo in Carmen, also something I've sung, fun times, Sciarrone in Tosca, and originated the roles of Lord Munamori and Da no Ura, apologies if I'm pronouncing these incorrectly, and Svachra in Namiraj, Novice in Menak. And he has also performed in the role of Aeneas in Dido and Aeneas, and Madhavya Hesh, umlaut, in Schubert's opera Sankuntala, with Nuni Productions in Thailand. He was a featured artist for Asia America New Music Institute and sang under the baton of Kanchan Wang, the Gustav Mahler conducting competition winner in Asia Europe New Music Festival in Hanoi, Vietnam. And he has performed in front of important people, including HRH Princess Maha Chakri Shridhorn of Thailand, HRH Princess Somsavali of Thailand, and HRH Princess Marie Esmeralda of Belgium. And in 2020, after his graduation, Rain was granted a scholarship for the Botticelli course on 16th to 17th century diminution from the Musikakademie Schloss Weissenbrunn. He was a semifinalist in Premier Opera Foundation Plus NYIOP International Vocal Competition. And speaking of opera queens, which we're here to talk about today especially, Rain has performed in our Chez Pauline Viardot recital with Opera Queens, our first project, as well as the roles of Purcell's Dido. So he's sung both Dido and Aeneas, which is really cool, in drag, and Nerone in Händel's Agrippina, and our Agrippina is actually in our audience today, which is very exciting, and I covered Agrippina actually. Fortunately, did not have to because that was better served by Jay with us here. And this year, made a little appearance. This year, Rain returns as Händel's Sesto, Barbara's Charmian, and Tchaikovsky's Triquet. So, before I finally let you hear the speaking voice of Rain, I have a little clip I want to show you, and I'm going to send the intention out to the tech gods that this will work. And what you'll be seeing is some ultras top secret footage. And let me just make sure I'm sharing my audio. Share screen. I'm sharing my screen. And do I need to do anything for the audio? Blah, 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 blah. Ah, yes. Compartir sonidos del equipo. So that should work. So this is ultra super top secret footage from our production of Drama Queens, which we filmed mostly in Montreal. We still have yet to finish our Toronto footage, and one of the works we presented in Drama Queens was Dido and Aeneas, but for certain reasons we had to cut out the Aeneas, multiple reasons, and it ended up being focused on the characters of Dido and Belinda. And the idea with Drama Queens is all these opera scenes from great stories of myth, legend, and history. And Dido was a very famous African queen, rarely seen played by an Asian, I must say. So it was very exciting to have Rain sing the title role of Dido. We have Nicole Ellis Ross as our Belinda. And this is Dido's lament, "Thy hand, Belinda, when I'm laid in earth," that Dido sings at the very end. And even though we are launching our Opera Queens podcast, I guess we're starting with the end. So, but I would say this is one of the big highlights of our performing season this year. and was a moment that really, really resonated with me, particularly with a lot of the experiences of loss in the pandemic and isolation. So I hope you enjoy. This footage was filmed at Kin Experience in Montreal by our wonderful, wonderful production company, Stretch Takes, who made us look and sound amazing. And they're currently editing this. This is a video from my iPhone of the filming process where you get to see Rain and Nicole performing live with our pianist Ben Kwong, which is really cool, as well as a playback on the TV where you'll see it being played as well, slightly delayed because of the time delay, which is interesting in itself. So here it is. This is Dido's Lament with Rain, and just please holler at me or type in the chat if it's not working, and I'll try to figure out what's happening from a tech perspective. So let's see. Enjoy. Whoop. That might have just been me. There we go. Bravi! Oh my goodness. I think you can agree with me. I think you need to check yourself if you have a pulse, if you weren't incredibly moved by that performance. Even just seeing it now, it's just, I was in the room when it happened and it was just, yeah, phenomenal. And so I'm really thrilled to introduce you to this artist if you don't know them already. And yeah, I know for myself, watching myself perform, even like, a few weeks or months later, it's like, oh, like, can be a little bit of a torture, but I mean, yeah, it's really, it will be something that will really stay with me. So, congrats on a really amazing performance of that, Rain, and welcome to our Opera Queens podcast. And yes, hello, bonjour to you, Rain. Yay!
Hello, yay! Thanks for having me here.
No problem. So great to have you. So how are you feeling today, Rain? How are you doing?
I'm good. To be honest, like as I said earlier, I'm a bit nervous because it's actually like my first like podcast ever, and
Yeah,
also like to speak in English, like it can be a bit intimidating, but I think I will survive. So yeah.
yeah, I know, but it's exactly why we perform, right? Because it's thrilling but exciting, also nerve-wracking, but it's what makes us feel alive, right? It's a little bit of a kind of like an adrenaline thing. Like I imagine daredevils who like go down waterfalls and like drive fast cars, which at least I'm not a daredevil in that sense because that's risk taking on another level. But I think there must be that element of us too. The best things I think take us out of our comfort zone. But no, but Rain and I have really known each other for it's only been a couple years, but it feels a lot longer in a good way because we've done a lot of things and gone through a lot of things together, and it's made for a really exciting time. And I'm really thrilled to welcome you. I also realized, speaking of nerves, I forgot to actually introduce myself at the beginning. So I think most of them know who I am, but we are recording the interview portion for later. So I did want to introduce myself in case there are people like, who's this Gasian talking? So my name is Mike Fan. I go by they, them pronouns. And I'm the artistic director of Opera Queens. My Chinese name is Fan Zuming. And for accessibility, I would say that I'm wearing a pearl necklace with a rock beneath. I have my Opera Queen shirt on because I need to sport the merch. And I have a jacket that is gold, light gold with flowers on it. And I'm here with Rain joining us today, who is our special guest for the very first Opera Queens podcast. So, right off the bat, you were acknowledging that you were saying you're a little bit nervous, and especially speaking in English and doing an interview in English, which for you is a foreign language. At the same time, when I first met you, your English was so good, I really didn't detect really much of an accent. So, yeah, I don't know, really, I don't know if I've ever told you this. So for me, it's always funny because when you say that, I have to forget sometimes because your English is very strong, and obviously you work very hard to make that happen. But originally you're from Thailand. Now you're living in Quebec, where there's a lot of French happening in Quebec. There's a lot of English happening as well. Primarily, obviously, you're more fluent in English than in French, so most of your interaction in English, but it's still living very much in a foreign language. My parents were immigrants from China, and they've also had this experience as well, living and working in a foreign country in a foreign language. And so I wanted to ask you, first of all, because our podcast is obviously focusing on people who are marginalized, whether it's with race, sexuality, etc. And in our company, we seek to spotlight these artists too. What has your experience been like being in Canada, away from home, and singing, working in this foreign language, and the challenges of that? Because a lot of the times it's not really acknowledged, and it's just taken for granted. But sometimes there are certain jokes or certain things that you may not understand, and that you don't catch on as quickly as others, and it's not something that that people realize can be a barrier, and also not to mention the culture shock of how things are in this country compared to Thailand, even the weather in Canada. So I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about your experiences and this journey, because we're already talking about it, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know where to start because it's so
So much talking, right? Yeah, I know.
like first of all, like I'm from Thailand, so my mother tongue language is Thai. So it's very much different from English because we use like different alphabets, and also in Thai have we don't have tenses in for grammatic, so we don't have like past tense, future tense, or yeah. So what we do is we use like, and we don't really conjugate the verb, so we just use everything as it is, but we add the context later. Like for example, if I say I want to that I went to restaurant yesterday, I would say I go to restaurant yesterday in Thai. But the yesterday will tell you that that's the past. So that means that you can be you don't have to think too much to like, okay, what tense should I use? But then you have to know lots of vocabs to add the context to the context. So yeah, so English is very different. So but I actually like English was my favorite subject when I was like in school. So it helped a lot. And also like because I was in boy only school, and I think like around 12 I got bullied a lot because like I think I was not sure with my sexuality yet. Like I was, yeah, like I was just, you know, people, my classmates noticed that I'm a bit different, like a bit softer than other boys. So they bullied me a lot. And I didn't have friend at that time, but luckily, like there was like there were teachers from the States who came to teach English, and so that's how I pick up English. It's like I spent most of my lunchtime with them, and I think it tremendously helped with my English, and very helpful, like, and useful asset for me to have. And I was lucky that like after I graduated from the university in Bangkok, Silabakon University, I got a chance to work with my previous teacher who just recently died like last year, Stefan Sanchez, who's British. And working with him, like he also like started opera Grand Opera Thailand company, and I work with him closely since like he started his company, and it helped me a lot to immerse myself in a English speaking environment, because we also have some artists like from overseas, like from the States, from UK, also from Portugal, and it was really fun. It was really fun to like see. And at that time I was like, wow, like I get to see like these like singers from overseas, like who had their career like internationally, and learn a lot from them. It was really fun. And yeah, and then like I decided that I felt a bit stuck in Thailand, that like, okay, like I feel that there's not much like competition for me, like at that time as a baritone. Also as classical singer, it's we had so few like singers like who's active in Thailand. So I felt that it's time for me to move outside of my comfort zone and go somewhere that is a bit not actually a lot more competitive, that it will push me to the next level. And so I decided to find somewhere to study, and then I somehow like I found McGill, and it looked very interesting for me, and I came here and I auditioned for it, and I was crazy because I auditioned for only McGill and I didn't audition for anywhere else. I got in. Yeah.
Wonder why, because you're very talented, but yeah, it is, you know, putting all the eggs in the basket, you never know, right? So, and clearly it worked out, fortunately, as it was meant to.
Yeah, and yeah, it's, I mean, like the first year it was challenging, first of all, because I was told by my teacher Dominique Labelle that I actually could be a good countertenor. And it was a funny story, because like and that morning, I was talking to my countertenor friend in Thailand that I don't know why, like my baritone voice, like it takes so much time to warm up, like maybe like 30, sometimes with 30 minutes of warming up, my voice is still not there. But
Right.
while my countertenor, like my falsetto is always there. So I was like, okay, maybe it's a sign.
Yeah.
So I decided to switch, and which upset Patrick because I saw that like that year, like many operas that he's doing, like the roles that I can see myself doing as a baritone. So yikes.
Oh,
And so it was challenging. That was one thing. Another thing is like um because like education, like environment in Thailand is so much different than here.
yeah.
Um, let's say that in Thailand, like people tend to not like um, how can I say, to um, try to answer to the teachers, or like
Right.
participate that much, and
Yes.
they tend to be shy in the class, while like the first like, because in master degree here, like we have to do the, what's it called, the sorry, I'm losing my
No, that's
English
okay.
of it.
Colloquium. Colloquium
The
or seminars.
Yeah, the seminars,
Yeah, it's right around.
and which
Yes.
literally something like very new for me, and I didn't expect that. So the first class, I didn't prepare my reading at all. It's like, do I really have to read all these things? And
Right.
then I realized that all the people in the class, they I don't know if they read or not, but they have lots of opinion about it, and I was like, oh, right, okay. And so like after, like I think it was after like a while that I started to pick up and like be more responsive in the class, and like got the was there enough to express my opinion on things.
Yes.
Yeah, it took me like maybe 2 or 3 months to, yeah, really adjust.
Yeah, really interesting. And I hear and see so many parallels as well. I was born in Canada, but my parents were both raised and studied in China until at least their undergrad level. And it was, yeah, very much very similar. It's still different, obviously, in Thailand. But in Asia, there's, yeah, it's much more, the elder is kind of like, what they say is the end. And then
Yeah,
there's,
exactly.
yeah, room for inner.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what I like here, because I find that after all, we're all human. So like we can make errors. We can also have like we can be biased.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good thing that teachers here say that we all have our own opinion, and there's no right or wrong really, unless there's something that it's like
Yes.
mathematical. But yeah, I really like that they're very open-minded, and sometimes they admit that, oh, I did never thought about this topic like this, and this is very interesting. Like they really respect their students, which
Mhm.
is a bit different, I think, in Asia in general.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's very fascinating. At the same time, what I often, people in the West who haven't experienced a lot of the East and in Asia in particular, there's a lot of misconceptions of, kind of being very like dogmatic regime. And there are moments that are, it's different culture. But I would say the benefits, what I found that we also share is we have this very strong work ethic. Even through my parents, growing up here, I was raised very much still in a very traditional way in a lot of senses with my household. And that kind of work ethic, that determination, that respect for the elders and their wisdom and their guidance is something that we also take with us, and yeah, and being able to have that rigor which it takes in opera as well too. But it's always a fine balance of that too. And at the same time, I think especially in the pandemic, I've really noticed too, in the West there's a lot of freedom, but at the same time we see all these anti-mask protests, and it's like, well, one way it's good, but if you are, if there is not a certain sense of right and wrong, and what's good for the community as well, not just the individual. I see a little bit of that too. So it's very fascinating, and I try to always have that balanced approach, because especially with what's happening with China in the West now, the relations, I see a lot of kind of very negative kind of portrayals of Asians and of Asian countries, and there's a lot of things we don't know. And what's really fascinating about our friendship is I learned so much about Thailand and Thai culture, and it's not a country that's super huge population wise, so I think in the world consciousness it's not as well known, and there's not so much we don't know compared to even if we say like Japan, Korea, and China, like the really big countries population wise and size wise. So it's really interesting hearing also the nuances of your experience. Although in Mandarin, I have to say it's very interesting. In Mandarin, we also don't have tenses. So,
Okay.
and I hear this with my parents as well. They don't use the articles are tricky, and tenses as well. Conjugation, it's a context. Yesterday I go to store. Tomorrow I go to store. So I think it's important. Yeah, it's important for people to know and to think about these things, because our accent. We like to make fun of our own accents too, or not my accent, but my parents' accent. So but a lot of people don't realize that. Oh, actually, there's a reason for it, and it's quite fascinating and beautiful actually to discover the cultural reason behind it. So it's really interesting. And I would like to say as well too, you're also a really wonderful teacher. I got to actually see this because during the pandemic you were doing some master classes for some Thai students, and it was really cool because you were discussing Carmen repertoire with them, and one of the projects we worked on with Opera Queens this summer was also Carmen. And so you are a really great teacher, and you love teaching, which is great because a lot of performers don't like teaching. I've literally heard people say, I would rather work at Starbucks rather than teach. But you are a great teacher in your own right, as well as a great performer, and sort of through your education history, being trained with a lot of different people from different countries, and you're training in Thailand versus, as you said, some of the cultural differences in North America teaching. I was wondering if you have any insights in who you are as a teacher and how you teach, and how that has informed you, as in like, what things do I want to still keep in my teaching, and what things maybe I would change in my teaching compared to how you were taught. I wonder if you've ever thought about that.
Well, yes, actually, like I was thinking about it, and I actually like noticed it that like since I moved here, teaching here, like especially at McGill, teachers are very, very careful with their word. Like they tend to avoid negative words. They try to be very correct, and also I noticed that like when some teacher gets tiny bit like harsher, like, and for me like it's nothing because I came from the teacher would beat you or something. So and I see that like some of my classmates were upset about it, and they were saying, oh, like she's so harsh, blah blah blah, and I was like, that was nothing for me.
Spend a day in Thailand, right?
Yeah, so I think like I'm now a much calmer teacher. Like I used to be very strict and sometimes like impatient, but I think now I'm getting better at like controlling myself as a teacher, because I think it's not useful to be impatient to student. It doesn't do any good. And also that like I changed the way I address things, and I think it in a way for most like students it's much more effective. But at the same time, like because most of my students are Thai, maybe like one half like Swiss Thai, but most of them like they're used to like being beaten. So sometimes it works, and some it didn't work because like they thought that okay, I was too nice or something. So it's I still have to really adjust, depends on the student.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very fascinating. And my parents as well talk about this sometimes too, living in Canada. Actually, now, I believe at least my mother has lived now officially. She had an anniversary a couple years ago where she has now lived in Canada longer than she's lived in China. So technically, she's more Canadian than she's Chinese. Fun thing as well, when you immigrate to China, if you're from Chinese descent, and in certain countries, you have to renounce your citizenship. So when my parents became Canadian, they had to let go of their Chinese citizenship, so they're actually technically not even Chinese legally. But yeah, so they talk about how they have a little bit of a balanced approach because they can see what works in the West, they can see what works in the East, and what doesn't work, and they get to make a choice of how they live their life and raise their children, teach, work, because it is a little bit of there are certain things, of course, everywhere that work well and don't work so well, and it's finding the kind of the balance between them. So I find that very fascinating. And so, speaking of this clip we saw at the beginning, we saw this gorgeous clip of you performing Dido's Lament from Dido and Aeneas, or in our version, Dido and Belinda, let's say, or I called it. Oh yes, Hey there, Belinda is the other title I've given it, and really really gorgeous scene. And this was actually your first time in drag, I believe, in full drag and performing. I guess you've sung drag repertoire, but not like in a total production this way. So I was wondering what your experiences were like performing as Dido, this character, especially having sung Aeneas before as in your previous life as a baritone, and also in drag. And yeah, it must have been, yeah, an experience, but I actually never even got a chance to really talk about what that experience was like for you because we were just so busy and working on things. And why I'm glad to have this podcast, because a lot of things as well, I've always wondered about you and things like that. We never usually have time to talk about a lot of these things too. So what was your experience like performing Dido and in drag for the first time?
Well, like to be honest, like I didn't feel it until like the day that, because most of our rehearsals, like I was not in the costume and with the wig and
Took a
makeup.
long time. You
So
had a lot of valuable time otherwise.
so I didn't realize until like the day that, like, okay, now I'm in the dress. And then like I think I took about like maybe 20 minutes to be in that dress and try to do many things as possible, like to walk, to sit, just to make sure that, okay, like this is a different, I need a different manner in this costume as a drag. And doing makeup was actually a challenge because I mean I actually like did some makeup on girls before, because I sometimes I help some other performers like do makeup. But to do it on myself, it's another story
Yes,
because
yes.
like yeah, I had to figure out like what's the best way to kind of like make the masculine feature like looks a bit more feminine. And I don't think I did a good job yet, but I think I learned a lot from it. And it's fascinating. Like once I'm in that dress, like I was in that dress, I felt very different, like in the way, like, okay, like the way I act, the way I walk, it became much more natural than when I was doing rehearsal without the dress. Yeah, it actually helped a lot. And to sing Dido, it's almost like a dream come true, because this opera is something that's close to my heart. It was my first opera production. Like I was in Dido and Aeneas like when I was in the second year
Oh
in
wow.
Bangkok. I was singing Aeneas, but I know this opera like by heart because we performed like so many times. And I really love the music of, especially of Dido. So to be able to sing that, like I was very happy about it, and I was like pinching myself. It's true.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh, I'm glad. Yes. And you're so humble because I remember, and Jay was there when we saw you for the first time, and you're fitting in the dress, and I think you had tried on the wig. I think you had done some makeup as well too. So we had done one where we sort of kind of figured out what your look would be for Dido, and they were all like, "Oh my goodness, you're so beautiful," and we were like all like geeking out. So I mean, you're a natural. I mean, right? Yeah, it was already really incredible. And the funniest thing is what you used to talk about with makeup and being a novice at makeup is that you are so knowledgeable about skincare and makeup. And I've been one of those girls that you were talking about because very early on I was doing some drag work, and you were really really helpful in terms of doing my makeup and helping me with my hair and everything. And you know a lot of things, but I thought it was super interesting where it never seemed like you used a lot of it on yourself. And so I was really excited when we got to see this because it was finally like, you know, the doctor gets a taste of their own medicine kind of thing. And, no, but you look really gorgeous, and yeah, it's just something about it, the role, that everything just really suited you. And actually the reason why we ended up including Dido is because I sort of asked everyone, is there kind of a role that you were really interested to sing? And you had brought forward Dido, and then also Nerone, which is not a drag role. But I was really fascinated about the Dido choice. And I knew a little bit of your history with Aeneas, but I didn't realize there was such a long connection with it. What's interesting too is the very first piece of opera that I heard that really got me hooked on opera was the Dido's Lament, actually. So it also means a lot to me. I think it's just a very powerful, well-written, iconic work as well. But if you have a personal connection with it, it makes it even more deep. And that's why we wanted to give this platform for people to sing those kind of dream roles, because our dream role sometimes it's related to our gender identity, but sometimes it's just people want to sing a role because they want to sing the role. And the problem I think a lot in classical music and opera is it's very fixed in tropes and stereotypes. So if you're a countertenor, if you're a tenor, if you're a soprano, if you're a mezzo, etc., you're expected to sing a certain kind of role, like the baritone is the villain and the soprano is a delicate woman in the nightgown who dies of a disease. And you know, those are beautiful roles, but if that's all you get to really sing, it's not very rewarding or interesting. And in theater and film, people have a lot more ability to play a role that's completely different than them and totally get to try different things. And in classical music, we're still relatively limited, which it really shouldn't be that way. I mean, you just got to put on a different costume and sing in a different octave and ta-da! So yeah, it's really interesting. And actually for you, because you're a countertenor, you were actually singing in that range. But that's also one of the things that was difficult because some of the repertoire wasn't written for you. Based on our production in the end, we weren't able to use historical instruments. And the Nerone, we were able to find transcriptions of your arias. But in Dido, we were singing the original key. And related to that, I believe, was this your first production working with film as well?
Let me think. I think so. Like because most like other like productions, it was just recorded, but it was like live performances.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's my first time like doing like hardcore, like, you know.
Yeah. Yes, and we've been doing a lot of this in the pandemic because some things have been live streamed. We did a live stream concert together. It was actually our kind of launch for Opera Queens. But and in my second year of my master's, it was 2020 to 2021. So we had done a lot of filmed productions, very much like what we did this summer. But I know for you and for a lot of us even, it's very demanding, and it's a very new experience acting for a camera with no audience. And also one of the big things stamina wise is when you're filming and you have to do multiple takes of something, you have to sing and act fully each time because you don't know which take will be used and you can't mark and rehearse. And usually in opera, we have our dress rehearsal, maybe we have a rehearsal, we have like a day or two, and then we have the performance. And if there's multiple shows, they're spread out a little bit, so there's a day or two to recover between. And we sing the role once, and if you're in a big opera production, you're singing your role, your big aria, go off stage, someone else sings, and you're not on the whole time. But when you're filming, you're there for half an hour, doing, I believe Dido was 2 or 3 takes. Sometimes it was usually 2 or 3. There was one piece that I was singing and accompanying myself, and I ended up, I'm pretty sure it was 6 or 7 takes. And I only let myself do that because it was something I knew I could do that much because it wasn't super high or super low. It was very middly. and not too much of a big sing, but it was a really big challenge for us because, unlike theater actors, singing a big aria 3-4 times, the fourth time, second, third time, not going to sound as fresh as the first time, and it's challenging stamina wise and everything. And so I'm really grateful to all of the Opera Queens this season, especially in our film production in Montreal, which is very demanding, to do this, because it was something very demanding. But it was also great, as you said, the challenging things make us better artists and make us grow, right? And having a little bit of that competition and that motivation for yourself to kind of get to the next level. So could you talk about this experience? Because not only did you film Dido with us, you filmed Nerone and some art songs by 3 Spanish women composers, not on the same day, but it was a big week. And not only that, the rehearsals before that and the music rehearsals, we had a week of music, a week of staging, and a week of filming. We had some live concerts, and you were working a full-time day job. So yeah. It was really challenging, and that's why I knew that you had what it took to get through this. But even so, it's being there, it really is a different thing, and especially filming, which is so demanding on your concentration, your voice, the technique. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about this.
Well, first of all, like the biggest challenge of all is actually like that, because I work full-time job, like from 8 to 4:30. And I mean, I work at home, but it's still like, I was thinking, like I was talking to Jay earlier, that like we used to be so like, okay, like I have singing today, I have rehearsal today, I would not do anything else because I don't want to tire myself out. And I was able to do that like in Thailand, because the cost of living is much cheaper there, and also I was living with my dad, so it was like not, and now I'm living on my own, like in Canada, like I cannot do that, so I have to work my day job, and then like I have to catch a bus to the rehearsal or the
Uber.
recording. And sometimes I also like after like we finish like around 10 p.m. right, and sometimes I have teaching at 11 p.m. until midnight. So I literally like, I open my eyes, I work, and then I finish working, I close my eyes.
Yeah, because a lot of your students are in a different time zone. So weird times.
Yeah, so it was very tiring for me, and I also like had to like try to figure out like that, okay, like I need to be able to sing tomorrow, so I cannot like kill myself like today. I have to manage, like I had to do some yoga just to make sure that I'm ready to sing in the evening during the daytime, and I have to plan my food, that okay, certain foods that it will cause trouble to my throat, like I really need to plan everything. That was like one of the challenge. And also like to do recordings, because as you said, that we had to end up like 2 or 3 takes per scene. So I really need to have like first of all a good technique, because if you don't have good technique, like after like 1 or 2 takes, your voice is killed. And luckily, like I got good teachers, so thank you for that.
Yes, it's very
and also like I think it's not just the how can I say it, like not just how you manage your voice, but also how you make it fresh each time, because like after you repeat over and over, like sometimes like you become like a mechanic robot.
Like, oh, Dido's dying again, okay.
So like it was also challenging to make it like fresh each take.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a very different kind of process and very demanding, because opera takes so much concentration, language-wise, musically, dramatically, costume, makeup, what you're gonna eat. It's really a whole lifestyle. But unfortunately, for a lot of opera singers, especially in Canada, where we have so fewer resources and opportunities compared to the US or Europe especially, there's a lot of us have to make our income in different ways, and being freelance, kind of working multiple avenues or finding that day job, especially relatively early on, because you and I, we have gone through things, but we're still relatively young, so it takes a while to build this career, and this is not something a lot of people realize. Is unfortunately, one day the dream is we can focus full time on our craft and everything, but the reality of living in today, unlike in Mozart's time, for example, is a lot of us don't have those patrons where we have accommodation and food and everything provided, and we can just create, even though of course it wasn't exactly that rosy back then either. So it was really, really impressive, and I remember that, and we tried to really craft the schedule so everyone was singing only like part of the day, and then we would do a different scene with other singers and work around everyone's schedules, but it was still very difficult because obviously we couldn't just say, can I have a month off, and it's very different, and this is something a lot of people working what we call the muggle jobs 9 to 5 don't realize about our career situation, and it requires so much practicing, preparation, months, years of training, even just for one role that is unseen and unpaid, and requires so much dedication. And so really, really grateful and really impressed by your work, for example, and everyone's work really, but I know you were going through lots during that time, so it was really, really amazing how you were able to find all the energy and the strength and everything to really deliver it. And as we can see from the Dido, it really, really paid off. And not only that, but you were singing Nerone, which was a really difficult role with lots of coloratura, crazy character. Probably we could talk another hour about him, which we don't have today, but these filmed performances will be knit together into a digital release, which will take another probably few months to edit and to polish. So very excited to kind of have people watch it, and also very curious to watch it also how it turned out, because we didn't get to see all of the performances, but it was really really incredible. And that said, there's lots of crazy, funny things that happened, lots of highlights, lots of things that went wrong, but also hilariously wrong too. I do want to share a story from Dido, though, that was very sweet, because specifically when you were performing Dido, I remember I was helping you to comb. I don't know if you remember this, because we were so tired and busy. I think a lot of things just kind of probably slipped our minds, because people are telling me things that I'm like, that happened, and it's just sometimes it's like a little bit of a blur. But it was combing your wig. I remember you saying that finally something like it gets to be the other way around, and because most of our performing time has been strangely enough me doing drag performances and you doing a duet or something where we're together, and you end up like combing my wig and helping me get my stuff on because there's so much and things are like falling apart and everything like that. And this is your first time in drag, and the first time that I wasn't singing, so I was able to help you and to check everything the way you normally do for me. And actually it was a really moving moment for me, because I'm so grateful for your friendship and your that I can trust you, because can't trust everyone to do your lipstick before and then not come out and look like a monster.
Yeah, so I find that all the challenging moments was really fun to look back, but it was not that fun at the time, or like when we were having like such a great take and then there was like someone busking outside, because I was the studio that we were recording, it was by the street, so there are lots of unknowns. And yeah, like it like when I think back of it, it's really fun. And also how I struggle to say mumsy.
That was a running joke, yeah, definitely for us, that I will carry with me for a long time also. Oh my goodness, yeah, it was a very crazy time for sure, and lots of amazing stories as well. So with that, and how full my storage is, how many warnings I'm getting, we probably should wrap up soon the recording portion while it's still working. But I have a clip to play at the end This is a duet by Pauline Viardot-García, who celebrates her 200th anniversary bicentennial this year in 2021. And Rain and I had the amazing opportunity to perform at Schulich Music in a recital funded by Shirk on her compositions. And this is one of her transcriptions of a mazurka by Chopin, and it's La Beauté, Beauty. And I'm going to share this again and hope that everything again continues to work from a tech capacity. And I'm going to set this up and we will rejoin Rain afterwards. Okay, let's see. Good. Okay, here we go. And this is Louise Pelletier on the piano. Yay! So with that, I really want to thank you, Rain, for your time speaking with us today. I'm really hoping that it will all be recorded and playable back. But I was wondering before we turn off the recording and chat a little bit with our live Zoom audience today, if you had anything you wanted to close with. The question I wanted to ask everyone, particularly as queer people, because a lot of us have, as you mentioned earlier, gone through a lot of things when we were young, being different and things like that. If you were to meet your young self, Rain, as a child, what would you tell him, knowing what you know now and have experienced?
Well, I would tell him that, like, you don't have to really care what other people think too much. And I think I still need that someone to tell me that even today. I think I'm getting much better, but I still I felt that, I was talking to my student earlier because she also have difficulties with some the way. Oh, are you okay?
A water bottle.
Yeah, classic Mike.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so she was her body language is very restrained, and it actually didn't help with her singing. So I was discussing about that, and we were discussing about our past life, and I just realized that I used to be like that. Like when I was in bachelor degree, I was considered a very bad actor. That
Oh,
my body is very very stiff.
well,
And
same. Also awkward. Yeah, I did not know how
yeah,
to.
very awkward. And I just realized that's because like people were making fun of me of how I walk and how I am in the past, and I was trying to restrain those, and like it was a bad influence for me like in the later years, because like when it comes to acting on the stage, you really need to free yourself. And at that time I couldn't, because like I felt probably like, I don't know, trauma is the right word, but yeah, I was like affected by that those comments. So I would tell myself like in the past that like just don't care about them. They they just don't know what they're doing. They just, just to make a comment on others just to make themselves feel better or something. But anyway, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that's a beautiful way to close and a beautiful comment. I think that all of us can resonate with and take forward with us. So I'm really glad that you were able to say that and that you were able to be with us today and share some really amazing insights. I've known you for a little while now, but I learned a lot about you as well too, and it's yeah, really exciting that we got to hear from you and to share some of your beautiful work with everyone today. And so I just wanted to thank everyone for being here with us for the launch of our Opera Queens podcast, and to thank Rain Saran Senavinin, Thai countertenor, for joining us today as well. And I wouldn't be an opera company without a promotion, and so we were supported this year in this podcast by Canada Council for the Arts, but it's never a guarantee what our funding is for next year. We're already planning some projects for 2022 performance projects in Quebec and Ontario, and a return of hopefully our podcast where we're able to compensate our guests for their time to be with us as well, which we're able to do through our funding this year and our generous donations. So please visit us, operaqueens.ca/donate, to find out how you can support us. We also have merch available through Bonfire, bonfire.com/store/operaqueens, which I'm wearing today. And I've been drinking from this whole time. And you can also drink through our handy little mug. And I also have our tote bag, which I have actually been using because you see it's so ratty. But yours will be nice and fresh. So please stay tuned for our journey, for our digital content, for our live performances coming. We're excited we're able to start offering live performances, especially in Quebec. And one day we hope in Ontario and everywhere. But we really thank everyone for joining us, for sending their good vibes for us today, for being in this space with Rain, and those watching in the future. Hope you've enjoyed watching as well, and we'll tune into future editions. And we'll be featuring composer Steven Sarpa, who's actually here with us today, on Monday, November 29th, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So stay tuned to our website, operaqueens.ca/podcast, where the details are happening, on social media at Opera Queens, and stay tuned for more Opera Queens content in drag, genderbent, and queer, and spotlighting especially IBPOC artists. So thank you so much, Rain. And I don't know if I'm doing this correctly.
Yes.
A lot of practicing for this. Yes. And
That's
yeah,
cute.
now, yes. And we will now turn this off, and hopefully it's recorded. And yay. So thanks so much, Rain, and thanks everyone. And
Thank you, Mike.
everyone take care, especially in the pandemic. There's still lots of craziness going on. So keep the faith and keep on staying strong and making great art. All right, signing off.